What's up, guys? My name is Andre Hopkins, also known as Andre Interview, and today I'm joined here by Masters Santiago winner Chobra. How are you feeling? How you doing today?
Hey, good, good. How are you? Thanks
I'm
for
doing
having me.
doing pretty good. I'm excited. So we'll just hop right into it. So, first, I want to start off with a question. People were tired of hearing it, but I have to ask it. How was the crowd? Every player got asked it. Every coach got asked it. How was it when you're actually there?
It was really, really good. I think every comment that I've seen from people who are on site are not exaggerated at all, and I think that's probably the best compliment I can give. Right?
Mhm.
Everyone I've talked to while I was on site, there wasn't a single person who was like, "Yeah, but I wish it was kind of more like this crowd," or it's just a little lacking." There was none of that. Everyone loved the energy, and I think that's the most important thing. I think we get so carried away in esports with the bells and whistles, and obviously for champs, yeah, you want a bigger stage, you want a bigger arena.
Mhm.
That's fine, but it is really about the energy, right? When you go to sports stadiums, it's not because it's the biggest stadium. Sometimes that might be cool, but it's because you feel the energy, right? You feel your
Mhm.
own fans and the other fans like cheering together and cheering against each other, and we had plenty of that at Santiago.
Yeah, because even watching, like, as a fan, it felt like every game the crowd was turning up, no matter what teams it was. And of course, you gotta wonder if that's different if, like, say, like MIBR makes it and Mazzino's there, because it's like the hometown thing. But
Sure.
it felt like every game, no matter if it was, of course, Nongshim, if it was NRG, they were so loud. And it's like moments like that is what makes you love sports when a crowd is just so behind anybody. I feel like every game there's
Mhm.
fans. It was crazy watching it, and it's like you said, it came across the same way there. And so I've heard the players talking about how like you can feel the ground shaking when the crowd gets loud, because of course they can't actually hear the crowd, but yeah,
Mhm.
something like that is. And I wish we could have every event like that. I wish every event had a crowd like that because I mean, there's a reason people talk about this crowd or like the Tokyo one with so much, or even like
Mhm.
the Brazil crowds when like Loud is playing, like with so much reverence because it's so loud. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's ridiculous. So I want to ask, a week and a half after the win, I mean, how do you feel? I mean, going into stage one with Nongshim.
Um, Going into stage one, I think it's the most practical thing I can do is temper expectations a bit. It's a little iffy because we're in an interesting place where yes, there's a new map pool, but it's not a crazy switch. So what I mean by that is Lotus is a map that most teams eventually you played it so much that most teams are okay with it at least, and some people love it. So that doesn't really shift the power balance too much, in my opinion, especially in Pacific. Right, we don't have teams anymore that I think were just by and far better than everybody else on Lotus. Then you have Fracture, which has been away for so long that I think it's a bit of a blank slate for everybody. And from what I'm gathering, it sounds like most pro teams don't enjoy it. I think it's a little different for viewers, perhaps. I think we're a little more split on that. But so with the map pool not changing too much in terms of power balance, and then the patch notes, I don't think shifting the overall big picture meta drastically. So what I mean by that is, yes, obviously you're not going to see Yoru on every single map. I still think he's usable, but that's a totally different story. So while you might not see Yoru on every single map, you can still do heavy sight hits, right? That the whole double duelist thing where you're just kind of all inning on sight hits. You're going heavy 1-4 gamble stacks. Like that's still very viable. The patch hasn't really indicated anything where that's going to shift entirely unless people so choose. So when you consider all that, I think it's a better shift than in the past we've had with some other teams that come away from Masters, whether it's winning it or being there all the way to the final weekend, and then you're struggling to catch up. Perhaps it shouldn't be too bad, but also, yeah, it's time lost preparing for the new maps, thinking about what the mistakes you made. You always learn a lot more when you've lost and you've been eliminated because you have to look back and you're forced to fix things. Whereas I think Nongshim kind of already figured out what they liked and they were able to dig into it heavier for Santiago. So I'm tempering my expectations for the round robin. Despite the difficult group, I still think they should be able to make it to playoffs, and they still should be. It's only fair that everyone considers them a heavy contender for London since they won. But otherwise, it's good. I think the biggest thing for me is I'm coming away from Santiago having seen the team improve in ways that I didn't think they would, and that I would say is a positive light.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty, at least top two most dominant runs we've seen from a team at a tournament. I mean, dropping what one map only to G2, I believe. It's just seeing a run like that. I feel like at no point when I was watching it that I was like, oh, this might be it. Like they could lose here. it felt like so dominant. I think it just comes down to, of course, the meta. Dombi finally get to unleash that. And I remember, this is a random story. I was arguing with people back in 2024 that Dombi was a better Neon than Kong Kong, and I was like, haha, yes, because just seeing this happen. But yeah, it's just crazy run from the team. And I also wanted to ask, so we saw last year Persia was on the team, but he had to step away, I believe. Was it because of health issues, or was it just
No.
team stuff?
The health
Okay.
issues was a leak that wasn't, even Nongshim was like, that's not it.
Okay.
And Persia was like, that's not it. So
Mhm.
obviously that caused some issues within the community and following of like what's going on. But both sides have come out and said like, no, we didn't. That's not the reason. We're not trying to claim that it was because of health issues. Now, just for the record, Persia has also said on his stream that he does have certain health conditions, but that wasn't what had a bearing in the decision for the team. So Persia was essentially, I think, for lack of a better term, benched, right? I don't know the exact specifics, but I think I've always told people that at the end of the day, I've always said that Xross has to be on the roster once he becomes of age or once he's available to play. It would, no matter who he replaces, it would suck, right? Because they were all good. But to me, Xross back in Challengers had that much value. Like, this is a guy that you want to invest into. This is a guy that you want to build into because he will be valuable to your team no matter which role you put him in.
Yeah, I mean, those grand final performances each time. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen a player get better in grand finals. But it's just crazy. But I wanted to ask about Persia because I want to say, has the team heard from him? Do you know anything about it? Were they talking to him during the tournament or anything?
He was there during kickoff, right? He was cheering on Nongshim. He even visited the team room after some of the matches, like took pictures together. I know he reached out to me during Santiago when I posted about it on Instagram and stuff, and he was just like, "Oh, I wish I was there too." And obviously, that's a little bittersweet. But as far as I know, I don't know exactly what his personal plans are. But I know he's made a couple of switches in terms of like moving and things like that. So hopefully we get to see him grind it back in again. But the thing about players like Persia is I think you have to consider the age at that point. Like if you have to grind back in, I think that's when age does matter. Because if you're still playing in tier 1, it's like, okay, I mean, age, maybe we shouldn't put too much weight on it. But if you, for whatever reason, have to grind back in, and even if it's not necessarily through tier 2, you have to go through all the tryouts again. You have to rely on spots being open to begin with, and then you have to get in. Then you have to adjust to new players and a new team and a new coach, and then you have to then improve to try to win an international. I was talking to somebody recently that had mentioned this, but that is, at the end of the day, when you think of it realistically, it's like, okay, well, that's going to take what, like 3-4 years. At that point, is it really worth investing that much and taking that risk? I don't know. So I wouldn't blame him if he were to step away, right, and did something else. But obviously, given the performances we've seen from him in the past, it would be great to be able to see him have another shot again.
And I mean, I just want to round back though, Xross. I mean, wow, he was so good this tournament. I thank him personally for saving my VFL team. All right, we were in dire straits. Him and Ivy came in. They righted the ship. So. But just like, I feel like his util was so good. His aim was on point the whole tournament, I felt like, but especially in that grand final. I mean, the whole team was clicking, obviously. 3-0. Crazy run. And I mean, what else is there really to say about that? I mean, absurd.
Yeah. Xross, I think, it's one of those things where, so Ascension last year, he was definitely getting used to things again. And then I think part of that was the role swap, right? So while I said that he's flexible and I would have trusted him with any role and I would have trusted that he would learn any role, obviously his main role was, in fact, the Yoru. He used to be known as a Yoru main, and he would flex on to different things like Sentinel and Initiator every now and then, but that was his main thing. So last year at Ascension, definitely had to take some time to grow back into it, to grow into a team setting. I would say already starting in Kickoff, yes, he might not always be the shining star, but that's generally just how initiators are. I actually think if your initiator is your shining star every single time, there's probably a problem, right? You're probably relying on them a little bit too much. You could have, styles that allow your initiator to frag out, but I think that would eventually get countered. So I think for people who didn't know who Xross was, his grand finals performances are kind of out of nowhere, right? You're blindsided by it because you're like, wait, I thought he was just this quiet. a guy who was kind of throwing util every now and then. But then if you dig deeper into it and you know what kind of player he is, you think about, even if he's not actually getting the assist numbers, you think about all the util he's throwing for Dombi. If that wasn't there, I don't think Dombi would have those games where he's just completely fragging out, getting crazy first kill, first death ratios. So there's that aspect. And then you realize that if an opponent were to focus on players like Dombi and Francis, they now still have to go through Xross as the next line. And you've seen how just ice cold he is. And I've talked about this multiple times in different ways, even on my own stream, of just, he's a grinder. He just plays the game. That's all he does. And I think when it's that much, it just comes as second nature.
And I mean, the clips you talk about on stream, how you're gonna go out and they're like, I'm just gonna play some ranked. I don't remember who it was, if it was Xross or RB or someone.
It's Xross, yeah.
Yeah, being like, no, I'm just gonna keep the queues going. I mean, I respect that grind. That's crazy. But yeah, it just, I thought he was gonna be really good because again, I watched the team at Ascension. I mean, I watch all the Valor I can take in. So just a player like that, I mean, he seemed so insane. It was crazy. And it makes me happy to see the team overall do well, coming from last year, because, 5th, 6th, pretty middle of the pack team, and then it feels like, yeah, they kind of just exploded out of nowhere for most people, from Ascension, and they won the first tournament of the year. And no one really saw it coming, So I want to ask about some of the characters for VCT. I just want to ask your opinion. Do you think Mix will have any viability going into Stage 1?
Viability in theory, yes. Like, I don't think any team is trolling if they play him. Let's put it that way, right? I don't think I'm going to look at a team who picks Mix and be like, well, they are trolling, he shouldn't be played. I think he is viable. I would say I haven't gotten too many games with him yet, but just from the little hands-on testing I've been able to do, something like Lotus seems like a map where I could see Mix having some good value. I think I definitely urge people to try him if you get the chance, because he definitely feels better, or when you play him, he feels stronger than he sounds. Now, that's not saying too much, because on paper he doesn't sound too great to begin with, but I would say that he is definitely better than I thought, right? My first impression was, probably decent for solo queue, that's it. Now that I've played him, I'm like, okay, I could see him in a team setting. The thing is the map changes, whether I don't know exactly when teams were notified. They are notified a little bit before the official release, but obviously it's leaked a lot of times before as well, so teams kind of know, and you're expecting map changes to begin with, so you hear it through the grapevine. You're probably preparing that ahead of time. I do know, I'm pretty sure devs oftentimes try to tell teams of, like, if a map is getting a big rework, of, hey, don't even practice that ahead of time, because it's going to be different, right? Things like breeze and such. So they'll know about the maps ahead of time, but the agents, they won't be told what kind of agent it is ahead of time. So when you consider that Mix was only really just revealed at the Santiago finals, and sure, you can get in a couple days early with the testing server for the creators and things like that, I don't know if that's worth changing your compositions for. Like, I don't think he's a direct one-to-one swap of any controllers that we have right now, because he is very, very setup, team play, timing based, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember who said it, but on Plat Chat, the idea of just Brim plus Mix and just launch somebody into the site had me cracking up. But yeah, I feel like I agree with you. On paper, when I first saw the character, I'm like, that's it. That's all he does. And from what I've heard from people, it feels kind of underwhelming for ranked. But again, ranked and VCT are completely different worlds, so I can see some teams getting some viability out of it. But yeah, personally, I haven't played much, don't know what I would get out of it. I'm a gold player, but yeah, I feel like I hope somebody picks it so we can actually see the viability. I don't know who would. I could always just see a team like Paperex just randomly picking it, and you'd be like, all right, here we go, we're gonna see how it goes. But I hope to see some team pick it up, and so we can actually see what the character can do in a professional's hands, especially with, like,
I think
concuss.
Yeah, I think it'll take some time, because, again, I mention this every chance I get. The VCT system doesn't reward a lot of experimentation, and therefore I think we are seeing probably teams be a little bit wiser about, you basically kind of have to choose. Do you want to try to front load your championship points, or are you just trying to eventually land at the perfect spot in time for champions, right? Because those things can't, we haven't seen a team that is able to do both, because then they would have won, Masters into champions, like, all the way through. So with that in mind, I think it's the more realistic expectation is probably stage 2, because here's the thing: the teams that aren't, if we don't see a lot of teams experimenting with mix, that means the teams who are going to London won't be experimenting with mix.
Mm.
And would you have a lot of time then to swap that out? Probably not. It probably doesn't feel like it's worth it. So then we're in this loop, right? So then it's the teams who are free during Masters London to then prepare entirely new things for stage 2. So I think that's the realistic cycle. But yeah, who knows? We'll see. I think we will see it. I think we will see probably at least one team like per region try it at the very
Mhm.
least, right? Especially underdog teams. But whether that's enough data for us to even get a good feel for the agent, probably not.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, just the if it just give it a stage. So like I could see us seeing some
Mhm.
more veto this stage. Teams have time to actually sit there and
Yeah.
practice with it. I know Shy would love to see that, but yeah, okay, that definitely makes, yeah, that checks out. So I wanted to ask, we talked about it earlier, the Yoru changes. So I have some stats here that I used VCL America Stage 1 because the only one we've actually seen carry over majorly. So he had a 50% pick rate in Stage 1, but now we have not seen him get picked one time over the first few games. It's only a small sample size, but do you think it'll be a wider trend in Tier 1, or will his death be exaggerated by the wider community?
Statistically, I think it will be. That's a good question, actually, in Tier 1. Because here's the thing. I think if you have just been. Basically, if you hopped onto the Yoru train, but you didn't spend extra time, whether it's from learning from other players, whether it's just you doing your own, research and practice, then I think you're going to shy away from it. Because the reason Yoru was played by every team on every map is he just made everything easier, right? You have 30 seconds on this thing that can TP you to the other site. So you basically have free control of both extremities for the first 30 seconds on defense. You always can do fakes, right, on attack. There's things like that. Then you have 2 flashes, so you didn't need another flash initiator. It just made it so you basically didn't really have to consider things for macro and team comp. Yes, there's still individual tech of timing flashes, or whether it's trying to make more noise, or whether it's the clone or whatever else it might be. But what I'm talking about is in a pro setting, in a team setting, the baseline was, okay, you watched like one VOD and you're like, okay, we can do that too. And then that you realize you can apply that to every single map. So the baseline was very easy. That definitely got ruined because you don't have 30 seconds, right? That's like the biggest thing, is that people are, I think, crying about the flashes a lot, especially for solo queue players. But in terms of team play, 15 seconds? Literally, if the opponent just doesn't do anything for 15 seconds, now it's gone and that value is lost. So I think it's going to be easy to see a lot of teams, and I think we'll probably correctly identify which teams just relied on the base power of Yoru being so strong versus who are actually using it well. The other thing is, though, is that how much do you have to shift if you still want to use them? Like, let's say you have a player who still thinks they can make Yoru work, your team believes in the theory, but now you have to, if that means that, let's say you have to put in a Skye or KO because you're still relying on flashes for your set plays. Okay, well then that means, do we take out a recon initiator? So then it becomes this domino effect when you're thinking about compositions. So I don't think it'd be surprising to see even Tier 1, shy away, like, I would say, let's say 80% of the teams shying away from Yoru on most maps. I don't think that'd be too shocking. But I do think the community reaction to that would be exaggerated, because I firmly believe that with time, he'll find another place where he's actually a strong niche pick for certain maps. And it's fine to have agents like that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, perfect to have characters who on certain maps are good, but you don't play them everywhere. I think of like characters like Harbor. You're not going to play Harbor on every map, but there's some maps where you see it picked, and you're like, okay, this could work. And so, and I think, yeah, the nerf was needed. Like, he was so strong with the 2 flashes. It was just practically an initiator too. And it's just, yeah, like finding a niche spot in the meta in terms of like, and I wonder if, like you said, we'll see any teams continue to play it. I think of like Martine was insanely good with Yoru. I wonder if we'll see somebody like him keep playing it. Of course, you got players in like Envy, Eggster. I wonder if we'll see him still keep playing it,
I do think the other thing to remember is that his ult wasn't touched this time. And yes, it got nerfed once, but we realized it still has really good value in a team setting. So Yeah, I'm personally really curious where tier 1 teams land, because I think you spend a little time, you could still bring it out, and other people actually get caught off guard by that. So I think there's some value, but the ult still has good value, which is oftentimes really big for pro play. And then I would also say that he still has value as a good opper. It's very similar to when Jet got changed, where you had to pre-activate the tailwind, the dash,
Hmm.
and people were like, "Oh wow, like now you have to activate it, you have to wait a couple seconds, etc." But you basically start to learn timings of, okay, this is when I know I'm at risk, and then I start to activate it. So you could have a gate crash set up in the beginning of the round, but that second gate crash, while it's not going to get you to the other site, you can still clear out risky extremities and have that value, whether it's with an op or a rifle. So again, on paper, I think there's value, but is it worth it? Again, that's always the big question when you're running out of time and you have to win as many games to get as many points. Maybe that's a different question.
Yep. Like you said with Jet. Yeah, you see some people still playing. It's like a niche. If you're really, really good at it, you can still make it work. And I think we'll see people like that with Yoru. If you're still really good at it, you'll be able to make it work. So, continuing on with talking about the meta, I want to ask about Skye. You think we'll see some more of Skye? I mean, practically nobody played it, but now with the rechargeable flash, will that just take the Yoru role?
So the knee-jerk reaction from pretty much everybody was yes. However, I don't think so. Because if we're also all in agreement that the meta style doesn't have to shift too much, right? You don't have to change your meta style. You can still do heavy sight hits, and you can still do heavy flood retakes. Then the 60-second recharge is null and void, right? You're not going to have another 60 seconds to get that value, especially after you've used like both flashes. The only time that really provides value is when you're out of flashes, right? So, or you use one and you need a double flash. So when you consider those things, is that suddenly something that where she does way better than, say, a KO, right? Or, the previous Yoru? I wouldn't say so. It's nice in theory, and I think down the line when the meta shifts, she'll get really strong again. But I don't think that she's basically kind of like a one-to-one, plug and play, let's say, right? Of people being like, okay, we can't get as much map control, but let's just put in the Skye and then let's do that. I don't think that works. I don't think the 60 seconds is enough to cover all the other things you would lose by losing the previous Yoru. So I would be a little wary of teams that start just spamming Skye everywhere. Now, again, are there maps where she could be really good? For instance, I think she was always still viable on Lotus, even after the changes, if you were a fight-heavy team. Obviously, Fade is the go-to, but so there's things like that. On Fracture, I could see it being valuable because you can kind of clear out one side pretty easily, then still have something like a drone and another flash ready for another hit. So there's options, but yeah, I don't think her power level actually changes as much as people think.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to take in everything you said about the mainly about the how fast the meta is. Like the 60 seconds, like you won't get a chance to, and that's why Yoru was so good. Most time you use the two flashes, and by the time you use both of them, you're on the site. And so if you were to hit the spike down, you won't get the second one back up. I wonder, because I was just thinking about when I talked to Wendler before the season, he was talking about teams playing KO in the double duelist, like the Waylay dive comps. I wonder if we'll see people playing a lot of those the way they dive with the Neon or with the Skye. Because before, a team like N.R.G. played KO, and he said, teams who play KO, you have to have a really, really good KO player. And I wonder if we'll see something like that, but if a team has a really, really good Skye player, like a team like N.R.G. with Ethan comes to mind. Do you think there could be anything to that?
Yes, because I still think even at Santiago, we didn't see the complete peak of a quote-unquote anti-style to what Nongshim played. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy. I think the more I look at it, and especially when you have Dombi specifically on the Neon, I think it's very hard, right? But if you had a team who was able to play either whether you lean heavy into more delay and things like that, and you lean heavy on the defense side, or whether you just say, we're actually just going to do full set retakes instead of flood retakes. I don't think we saw the epitome of that. Now, I don't think it's easy when you have someone like Dombey, who can really, really push the limits of the Neon. But yeah, Skye could allow that, right? Where you could force yourself to get that value. And also, even without it, you still have a drone and a really good pop flash. So obviously, if you have an expert, I think now you're kind of more inclined to at least try it again. Whereas before it was like, well, even on paper, like the value doesn't match up. So yeah, I think we can, especially with experts. I would agree with the KO thing. Like, I actually think we should have, or I would have loved to see more KO in the beginning of the year. I think really good KOs could have actually disrupted the pacing a little bit. And I'm curious if maybe that's the direction we shift now instead of the Skye, right? Of people being like, okay, maybe we bring in the KO, because KO also, especially even in solo queue, like you think about, okay, what's one of the more kind of self-sufficient roles? I mean, now we have plenty, but back in the day of I don't get to play duelist, what else can I do that's self-sufficient? KO was it, right? You can flash for yourself, you can flash for your teammates, you can be aggressive with your flashes, things like that, or even with your ult. So yeah, maybe that's the route we go.
Oh yeah, I just feel like with the KO and Skye, yeah, I would have also, I don't remember who said it, it was somebody on Plat Chat, but seeing more things to slow down the hits, like when we saw 100 Thieves playing a lot of Sage and they would play Chamber, and I wonder if we'd ever see some more like that instead of trying to just go at a team like a Nongshim, who you're not going to beat them in the mirror with that comp, instead of trying to play a hard ante to completely slow down or shut down the pushes.
Yeah, I think those are the routes, and people, the knee-jerk reaction or answer to that always is, okay, if you're playing Sage and Deadlock, one or the other, or maybe even a combination of double Senti, then what are you doing on attack? But listen, when Cypher Lock was popular, it's not because they had figured out how to make the attack good. Cypher Lock was always limited by the fact that you had to do heavy contact play on attack, because otherwise, if you have to use all your utils to get through, then the post plant sucks, and now you're really out of luck. So I think there was still value in that, because if the opponent is playing heavy double duelists with no Senti, they're probably going to want to fight even on their defensive rounds. So I think there's a trade-off. Again, I'm not saying that would have been guaranteed, but it would have been at least nice to see, because in theory, you'd imagine, and historically, Deadlocks and Sages, I would say Deadlock more so than Sage actually, were really, really good at stopping Neons. Fades, in fact, as well. Back in the day when Neon got really popular in Fracture for the first time, it was the Fade oftentimes. It was like Fade and Sage. It's like, okay, now we can stop them, because you seize them, it's over, right? They've lost their timing, and you can't attack again, things like that. The game has changed now where, yeah, they can still attack again, but I would say Deadlock, you have 2-3 ways to stop them multiple times. And as I've said before, and I think slowly people have realized, it's not about stopping the Neon. It's about stopping the rest of the team. Because if the Neon's really good, they will avoid everything you throw at them. That's just how it's become. We've seen that limit now from Dombey. But if you stop the rest of the team, that Neon isn't getting that quote-unquote broken value where the teammates get to do everything they want. And so who could be good at that? Again, Sages, Deadlocks, throwables, timing walls. I think there's some value that we haven't explored there.
I hope we get to see some more of that. That'd be really fun. And also, you said broken Neon. I want to say, it makes me so mad the community does a thing where one person is really, really good at something, they all just act like it's broken. Rock with the Odin. We see badge about events. Dombey with the Neon. It's like, Neon's really good, yes. The Odin's really good, yes. But they're not broken. You can't just like pick it up and be good at it. These people put in so many hours. But that's just my little side tangent.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it briefly before, but I just want to say one thing. I agree with you that the reaction is stupid if someone has mastered something that doesn't make it broken. But I would argue that even in design, I think once you reach that limit, Neon does have a little bit of brokenness. Now, I hesitate simply because we haven't seen what I just talked about. What happens when you focus on stopping the rest of the team and not the Neon? How does that work out? If that provides a counter, then my argument goes back to just being neutral, because it's a team game. It's not a solo game. So, but when you think of it individually, 1-to-1, again, I've mentioned it before, but Neon is one of the only characters that can actually actively take extra turns again and again. Whereas the most we used to have before is just denying the opponent's turn, right? Something like TPing out. But when you have Neon, it's like I can deny your turn and take another turn myself multiple times in different ways. So I would say that that's probably one where it's like, okay, if she's the only one that can do that, yes, once you reach that peak, it's probably a little broken, and you have to very carefully find ways to balance this. But to your point, if only one person in the world is able to do it, that doesn't mean that it's inherently broken and they have to be nerfed to the ground. It's not like a Yoru where everybody's playing it on every single map. Like, I would say that's technically more of a broken in the common sense of, well, we probably need to retune this because now everybody's able to play it and get value.
Yeah, but if everybody gets to Downey's level, then we need to be like, all right, we gotta reel this back. But that's not gonna happen. So we don't have to worry too much about that part. So yeah, I wanted to ask also. So the rumored meta, a lot of people are just trying to guess the meta. We don't really know yet. People are talking about seeing Neon, Waylay, Skye. If that did happen to become meta, or Neon, Waylay, KO that we talked about, do you think that'd be more or less enjoyable than the Waylay Neon stuff we saw a lot at Santiago?
More or less enjoyable? Well, okay, this is where bias is going to matter because I always thought Nongshim was fun to watch. Now, as a caveat, I thought they were fun to watch even when they lost back, last year. But, well, maybe not every time. Sometimes it's depressing. But, it's not just because they were winning, although that helps a lot. Like, when you're winning in a dominant snowball-y playstyle, it's fun, right? That's why Paper Rex back in the day got so many fans. Obviously, they still do, but they've balanced things out now. But it used to just be balls to the wall, let's freaking go. And then they would dominate their own region, and you're like, okay, this team is sick. So I'm a little biased in that sense. But first of all, I think Neon Waylay, I'm not a big fan of that combo. The Neon Yoru was different, but I think Neon Waylay is more of a case of we think two agents are strong and we're just going to use it. And it might get you a lot of wins because they're so strong. But to me, composition wise, like I look at that and I'm like, I'm not really seeing, like, it's very all in and you're getting away with things because the agents are strong. So in that sense, I don't know if I personally necessarily enjoyed that specific combination. But I mean, I didn't really have a problem with the double duelist because I don't think we've seen enough of the opposition. I don't think we've seen enough people explore the opposition. Now, I don't blame them because you have no idea what the win percentage of the, perfect ante would be. And also you'd have to practice that. And we talked about, again, you don't have any matches to do that. So it sucks, but I'm fine with it just because I'm like, well, I don't think we've run through all the options. And as someone who doesn't have, I'm not the player or the org that has everything on the line. I'm like, well, I'm fine to not change things until we've seen every option as a viewer. When people say it's boring, I do wonder because I am curious what the overlap is in that Venn diagram of people that are saying that the current double duelist is boring versus the people who said the OG2 was boring. Because the reason it's boring right now is because you don't see macro diversity. But when you see good macro, and if those teams are able to suddenly control the pace of the game, we would have another majority say that it's boring, right? So I am very curious what the overlap there is. So yeah, strategically, it's a little boring right now, but I also just think it's because not enough teams have the leisure to test more things out and experiment in ways to counter it. One thing I want to catch on to, though, I was going to actually spend more time on that, like, across this weekend and building into literally the days right before stage one. But you mentioned, people speculating about double duelists like Neon plus Waylay or Neon plus whatever plus Skye. I would actually wonder that if your Neon was really good, that Skye wouldn't be very good with Neon because the guiding light wouldn't be fast enough. And if you tried to set it up from longer away, it'd be a bigger tell. So I am curious. Obviously, you could do something where it's like it always just half flashes the Neon and then it flashes everybody else. Like, you could do that. Actually, yeah. I mean, I guess the old zoo comps with raises and stuff, the whole point was that you just have a lot of targets. So yeah, I just wanted to put that food for thought out there. But yeah, I could see a world where it's both the Neon and the guiding light flying at you, and you have to decide whether you want to turn away or not, and that could be a problem as well. But more fun or less fun, I don't know. I was fine with it. So I don't really have any issue with the meta not changing.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the old comps. I remember the Paper X, Reina, Gecko. You choose which flash do you want to shoot. It'd be kind of similar to that, or do you want to dodge the flash, or do you want to shoot the neon? I mean, and like you said, I could see there being an issue with you accidentally flashing your own neon because the neon's too quick. What do you think you would rather see instead of something like that? Is there any like other initiator you'd rather see, or anything else in general?
I used to champion for KO since like stage 2 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I used to always say that I thought KO would be really. I don't know why KO isn't seeing more use on Corrode, and then obviously NRG leaned heavily into the KO.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the KO was like the one thing, but they utilized the KO Sova on Corrode, and I was very happy to see that last year. So I think KO has a strong place within initiators. The problem is with KO is that for the longest time you did need an expert. You need crazy lineups because some of the really, really interesting things you can do is basically be that cross map support, right? On both the attacking and defending side, whether it's the flash lineups, whether it's the 0-point lineups with the timing, because that actually has a decent travel time. So if you can time that and you have an expert who can do that, I think KO becomes really, really good and also kind of tough to counter. So I would love to see more KO, but do we have enough people left in the scene that are still giga experts at it? Maybe not as much to really shift the meta.
Yeah, but I can always see a team who's, like you said, expert. I mean, NRG, that you talked about on Corrode, I mean, they were made because Ethan was so good at KO that he could make it work. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Do you have any teams in Pacific that you're really excited to see outside of, like, the top ones that we just saw, like T1, Nongshim, Paper X?
Mm-hmm. It hasn't changed from the beginning of the year. GE, I am very big on this year's global esports roster and coaching staff all the way through. There's not a single member on that team where I'm like, I'm indifferent to that person. No, I'm actually either very excited or I wish to see them reach what I think is their potential, right? For every single member, including the coaching staff. So there's not a lot of teams where I can say that, especially because when it comes to coaching staff, a lot of times I just don't know, right? I don't know what your value actually is because I can't be in the team room. But I've had the fortunate experience to either get to talk to a lot of the coaching staff on GE, or whether it's someone like Platoon, where everybody's been able to see what kind of value he might be able to bring to a team, right? With all the content he's made and still does make every now and then. So when you have a team like that, and then you have these players that I think are every single one of them I've mentioned at some point on their previous rosters of like, I want to see what this guy can do, like more. I want to see them grow. It was the same for Uniton. It was the same for Crystal back in, the several Ascension finals he's been in. Obviously, Autumn on FPX. Javi, last year, I was like, this guy, when he was playing on Naus last year at Ascension, I said, he has to be one of the number one prospects that people look at, especially because we're lacking IGLs in Pacific. And now here he is growing into a bigger IGL. And then obviously, Patman. I mean, we've seen what he can do. So that group it's just brimming. It's just brimming with potential. And I want to see it come to fruition. And also, this is fun to watch because there's two outcomes. Either head coach Frost is able to bring it all together and they have a giga banger of a year, crazy underdog story, and Frost finally gets some redemption on I told you so, right? Whenever I talk about my reputation throughout all the esports, this is what I was talking about for all the Zoomers who don't know their esports history, which, by the way, I give Frost his credit, but I always do think it's so funny that he always brings it up because it's like, okay, but you are still in a red light, green light situation. Like, that's just the reality of the past 2 years, man. Like, I don't know. But then, the other funny side of that coin is maybe it's still a red light, green light situation and it just doesn't happen. And that would be entertaining in its own right as someone who doesn't have a horse in that race and just wants to see them do well. It'd be a shame, but I'd be like, well, I mean, I'd still get to kind of rub it into Frost every now and then. So, I am very interested to see how that team does. But objectively speaking, I think they should eventually do well. I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually became a strong contender to be in the top 4 for champs. Obviously, maybe we'll see other teams eventually come back to their form as well. But right now, you see TRX still making roster changes. That's going to cost them some time. Gen.G looked like they were going to need a lot of time to ramp up. You had a Full Sense who was struggling eventually at Kickoff once their weaknesses were shown. This is the prime time for a team like GE with good potential that is what I would consider an upwards trajectory. They got close to beating Paper X, so twice. So if you have a team like that, I mean, I think it's exciting to watch them grow throughout the year.
And I was gonna say it's crazy to think that we're one map away from Paper X not even qualifying. I mean, in the lower bracket, they were, I believe, tied at halftime on map 3 against GE, and it ended 13-11. Like, we were one map away from Paper X not even making the grand finals. It's kind of it's crazy how games like this work, that one thing goes differently and the whole tournament looks different. I mean, there's the whole thing where Paper X, they played all the North American teams. Well, they don't make it. Who knows what even happens? Really interesting stuff about that. But yeah, I believe a lot in the GE team. I think Javi's really, really, really good. I mean, since I watched him on Nous and Ascension, I was like, this guy, and he's calling, like, this is crazy. I'm happy I talked to Balix about that earlier, get his perspective, because he's, worked with Frost. I really like what they were doing with Yudotan on Vito in the opening, seeing the early potential of a character like that. He was doing crazy stuff out there. And we saw how Patman was playing some of those games. I mean, he had the one game where he had like 32-6. Maybe that was ridiculous. But that team, has a really high potential. And like you said, a lot of their teams seem to be kind of struggling now. So if there's any time, it would be right now. GE to Masters London. Book my ticket on the train. We're hopping on. So I actually want to talk a little bit about Gen.G as you talked about them. So this is kind of a longer question. So if you need me to repeat anything, just feel free to let me know. So before the season, we talked about Dark Horse teams, and your pick was Gen.G. And they had a bit of a rougher start, going 1-3 in Kickoff, losing to teams like DFM, T1, and GE, like we talked about, and beating a Vero squad who looked a little shaky at most time. At best, it felt like in Kickoff. They'll start stage 1 against GE, Paper X, and Nongshim back to back to back. How do you feel about them going to stage 1? Do you have any hope for them making playoffs or pushing for Masters London?
What's funny about my take on Gen.G is how they looked in Kickoff is exactly what I thought they would look like at Kickoff. I thought they would struggle. And especially once we realized what kind of meta we were headed towards, it was not going to work out very well. Because the biggest thing is, and I'm not saying he's the problem, but when you have someone who's learning to primary IGL, speed is everything. Those are the teams where the W Gaming really works out against, because they just can't adapt. They just can't adjust in time. So that obviously didn't work out very well. However, I would say that one of the strengths that they showed even in Kickoff and the offseason was that, lo and behold, the set plays are really clean. Set plays are really good when they have the time to set up, or when they know exactly what they're going to do. That's when they shine, because then the aimers come back into form, because they don't have to think about too much and call everything. They're able to just do it by second nature. The entire site has been cleaned out with utility, things like that. So then you consider the fact that they've had time now. Okay, in a heavy site hit flood retake scenario, it could work out. They could at least even out where they're playing in playoffs and maybe trying to. I would say that they still would be a dark horse to make Masters, but they would be a dark horse and not a complete underdog. However, given the strength and, again, the agents that are being used, I expect them to do better than Kickoff, but like you said, given the group, I don't expect them to get out. I don't expect them to get into playoffs. I think they could, but if I had to choose between, basically it would come down between GE and Gen.G, and I would pick GE in that matchup of who do I put as the fourth team to make it into playoffs out of that group. I mean, it could also be a 3-way tie with DRX in terms of power level as well. I just have no idea what to expect from DRX right now with the recent roster change. But if I were to just assume that DRX somehow is always going to at least be either third or fourth to go into playoffs, then I'm looking at GE or Gen.G. And in that one, I'm picking GE. But would I be shocked if it was Gen.G? No. But I would say that I would favor GE just overall to win more matches, more meaningful matches to get through. It's unfortunate because Gen.G they have all the players are really strong. That's for sure. The players are really strong, but the meta doesn't really suit them, because we saw Zinx eventually come into his own in terms of aim and fragging, but now you're at this point where, okay, so does that mean that texture has to be the dive, the space creator, right? Does he have to be the actual entry and not the entry fragger to allow Zinx to frag? Because that seems just like slightly wasted potential when it comes to texture, because he's an incredible fragger. But is Zinx experienced enough to be that entry for someone like texture? I don't know, because that's not something you can do by just being told what to do. That's something where you just have to have the gut instinct to make decisions and call for it yourself. You have to be so vocal. You have to be really quick on your feet. And I don't think that's on Zinx. I just think that's really hard to learn within a year. So I think that's where even double duelist, even heavy set play, they will struggle to break that last 2% barrier to really be a strong team, right? A top tier team in Pacific for stage 1. But I still hold by the fact that throughout the year, I think Gen.G will get stronger. So I expect them to still be lingering in my head when it comes to Champions time. But stage 1, probably not, especially like you said, given the matchups in the groups.
I mean, just a brutal draw right there. I mean, the first 3 games, even like just if you want to like discount, I guess GE, Paperex and Nongshim in game 2 and 3 that's brutal. And I mean, like you said, we saw Zinx come a little bit into his own. I mean, he looked a little shaky to start. My biggest concern when watching him in the kickoff was during off season we saw Lakia. I was like, okay, he's shooting again. And then towards the end, I was like, hey, Lakia, he wasn't shooting very well. I was getting a little worried. And so he had some not great maps gunplay wise. That was my concern watching the team. But like you said, with texture, like I talked about how I was really excited to watch him, and I always trusted the coaching staff to know. But yeah, just him being the one who gets flung in and then setting up for somebody else, you would just kind of hope to see him be able to be the one to take over the games. I feel like.
Just totally random thought, and I don't know, this might give too much hopium, or people might. It's better if you just call me crazy, because I'm just throwing this out there. But legitimately, now obviously, I have no idea if it's even possible. But if it were possible, I actually think the ideal scenario is to make Charon the entry and space creator, because he's been on the team long enough. He can communicate quickly. We know that he's fairly vocal, and we know that he's fairly confident. Zinx also used to be a Sentinel mate. So, like, in a lot of senses, I think when you consider the experience and what they have so far, like, if Gen.G, I'm just saying, if by any miracle Gen.G comes out with Charon suddenly playing some type of duelist, and Zinx is playing, either a Heavy Viper or Sentinel, my stocks would actually go up for Gen.G. So that's just something to consider. But again, this is what I mean when you talk about, it's not just fragging power. It's not just who's good at what specific agent. Obviously, if it's something like a Yoru, you need someone dedicated to it. But aside from that, it is a lot more about what kind of a player are they? Like, do we see them being able to confidently make these choices that clearly can't be communicated ahead of time by the team, things like that? Or do we see them get value, and then we see the team react to it on the mini map? Okay, that means they're a very, very vocal player about the information they're gathering, things like that. So that's just something I think you have to keep in mind when you look at a roster like Gen.G.
And I feel like Charon is a good enough player. He could pull it off. It would be a little wacky, I feel like, but I mean, we know he can frag. And honestly, I feel like if they come out the gate and they're struggling a little bit, and you're like, well, we gotta try something, I wouldn't hate it.
I'm just saying.
I was recently looking back at old interviews. I was recently looking back at old interviews, and just you saying that reminded me of when Sadak was playing Neon, because they were like, well, no one else will do it, so I guess I will. I don't think he would be like, I mean, not trying to trash on Sadak, but he's not a duelist player. He struggled a little bit.
No.
Yeah, I feel like Charon could pull it off. Would it be a little messy? Yeah, but like I said, I wouldn't hate it, like you said. So, do you have any teams in Pacific you think will rise up from where they place in Kickoff, and any teams you think will fall?
Rise up from where they place in Kickoff. Oh, that changes things a little bit, because again, most of the time questions like these, GE would be my pick, but I actually think, if they went above where they were at Kickoff, they would be at Masters, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they can make Masters London, but I don't know if that's the expectation. To rise up. In a funny way, I think. In a funny way, RQ, I think. Obviously, they were very close
Mm-hmm.
to getting there, and then they went from basically second top two to fourth place, and that was brutal. But basically, what I'm trying to say is if people are looking at that and thinking, "Oh, RQ's cooked," then I think you'll be surprised and you will realize that okay, there's a reason RQ was always still one of the best within Pacific, like regionally, last year, that they are able to figure out these counters when it's league play format, things like that. So I think RQ will come right back into their place. Otherwise, I mean, the groups make it really tough. The groups make it really, really tough in terms of trying to expect someone to come back. I would say that I know there was the report about Cruz coming back, right, as a player. I think if that happened, Full Sense would shoot right back up to a fairly strong contender. Not a favorite to go to Masters, but I think they'd be very, very strong. And again, this is no slight on the roster they had. I think the report said it was for Thai, but we haven't heard anything afterwards. It's been like, a month. I think that was like during Santiago or something. So who knows what that looks like. But basically what I said about Full Sense before kickoff was, okay, you don't have a proper IGL. You have someone who's never really IGL'd before. You're going to run into a wall. And once you run into a wall, you're going to crumble. And that's exactly what happened, right? They looked strong until they didn't. So I think now you bring Cruz back in, who I would have rated always as a top tier IGL within Pacific, especially in their group. I think they're definitely in playoffs. If they don't make playoffs, I'd be very disappointed. But even within playoffs, depending on the matchup, yeah, maybe they could have a shot.
Please, I need to see Primi back in international and May.
Yeah.
Those are the two. Those two, Primi and May, are the two where I'm like, I need to see them international. Please, please, DFM. I mean, and I think people are looking down on them now more because of their performance at Santiago, but I feel like I'm not sure what to think about T1 because they made the international. I mean, in second, some people, a lot of people were like, it's about them, and did they go 1-2? I think they won a game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then they lost out in groups. Yeah. But I'm just kind of they're one of those teams where I'm just very interested to see them because I feel like just based on name value, like if you just looked at the names on the team, you think this team could be the best in the region. So I'm intrigued to see how they do. They're opposite of the Paper X and Nongshim side, or they're in the Full Sense side. Yeah. So a team like that could always just get first place in their side.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to put the pressure on them. If they're not top two in their group, I think they deserve a little bit of flaming. Like, with that roster, no offense to the other teams in that group, but with that roster in that group, if you aren't getting top two, we have a problem. We absolutely have a problem. So, T1, the ball's in your court. I mean, you should be able to even slowly experiment and build up towards a playoff run. You have everything has been lined up for you, and if they can't do that, I mean, again, sure, you have like DFM could continue to look stronger and stronger, right, and they could be a big challenger, but and I think RQ, I think it wouldn't be too shocking if RQ beat them, but come on, man, T1, this is a layup, and they gotta be able to take it.
Even like top three, I'd be like, okay, like, but if they got like fourth, you'd be like, okay, something has gone very wrong because.
I mean, listen, you're being lenient. It's top two for me. Top two or bust. They gotta get top two in their group. They have to get top two in their group, and if they don't, I am going to be sorely disappointed.
I think I just say that because I really want DFM to do really well, so I'm kind of just trying to like manifest it into reality. Like, come on, DFM, let's get to international. Let's get May there. Let's show the world how good he is, because they've just been never made it. So I hope to see them make it. I hope RQ. I still feel bad for RQ. They got the first, like the second to last treatment, like how MIBR did. Tragic.
Yeah.
Format got them. Yeah. Got a few teams.
No, it really did. I mean, the format plus the scheduling. That's really it, right? The 3 back-to-back days is just ridiculous, and it's almost a miracle if any team is able to actually overcome that without any other outside factors, as we've seen in some of the other regions. So, that is a darn shame for RQ for sure.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask a question here, and I just thought it was kind of interesting thought experiment. I asked a few other people in the community, what do you think is more likely to happen? Nongshim goes undefeated in their group to playoffs, or Team Secret doesn't win a game in their group.
Wait, doesn't win a game
Doesn't
in
win
their
a
group?
game, yeah. I'm pretty sure they're in the side with Zeta, Full Sense. I believe they're in that side, but I can double check that real quick because I have to remember real quick.
Yeah. No. Team Secret is in the same group as Nongshim.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. So what's more likely? Secret doesn't win, goes winless, or see, this is funny because on paper it seems very likely that Secret wouldn't win a game in their group. But it's Secret. They always win they always have that one big upset.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, this time around, I'm gonna go with Secret is more likely to go winless, and they won't get that crazy upset. And here's the thing: people might be thinking, "Oh yeah, it makes sense. There's Paper X. Paper X will have the revenge in opening week. You've got, who knows, DRX, or I guess now Cume DRX. They always show back up." No. I think Nongshim can't go undefeated because of GE. Listen, it just lives rent free in my head that Frost is freaking 4-0 against the Nongshim boys, and I know why. I know why that is. Like, I know stylistically, this is just one of those things where Frost is built to be able to target a team that has a very specific play style, and he has the players for it. And that's the match I'm most scared of. For people wondering, I ain't scared of the Paper X matchup. I'm not scared of the DRX matchup. But week 5, GE, that team scares me when it's Nongshim Redforce going up against them.
I could especially see it in a way like, say, Nongshim does go undefeated through, and they're like, "Oh, we're coasting now. Like, we're almost here." And then you have GE. They feel like a trap game for everybody, where you think like, "Oh, it's GE. Okay, we can win this game," and then they're randomly. I've said I think they're a team who will just randomly beat one of the top 2 teams. They'll either beat Nongshim or Paper X, just randomly. And everyone, like, people will be like shocked per se. Like, I feel like I wouldn't, because I watched the team. They had Paper X on the ropes in their last game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'd be shocking, but I think it'd be very plausible, like you said, for them to go right through. Also, do we know who the replacement for 1010 is yet? Is there any rumors? I don't know anything.
No, I think there was a tease from Jesse Vash showing a person next to him, but their face was completely covered. So
okay.
We have no idea. We have no idea.
Well, soon. I mean, it's starting, what, 2 weeks? 1 week?
A week, yeah.
Yeah. So
in a week and a half, yeah.
We'll know soon, but yeah, I just been asking some people that, because I feel like it both feel like they could happen, but both feel like a team not winning a game, like they'll win one, but like Nongshim is such a hard side, like they're in the same bracket, it's so difficult.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Secret, if they were to win a match, it would have to be DRX, Gen.G, or GE. I would say that they're very not likely to win against GE unless unless Frost puts Javi to trial by fire again, and Javi has to do everything on its own to prep. Javi gets cocky again or whatever. That could be a problem. But outside of that, like, they'd have to beat Gen.G or DRX. But I just don't. The DRX is probably the biggest one where it might be likely. We just have no idea what they look like right now. But then you also consider the players that they have. You got Mako, you got Hyunmin, you've got Bane. So regardless of where Young is being slotted in, whether it's for Hermes' spot or not, they should still be a really strong team.
And I know maybe it's just gonna take time to get used to, but I still don't like KRX. It feels wrong. I don't like seeing it. It bothers me looking through saying it. I've called them DRX about 5 times since they changed it. I will probably continue to call them DRX on accident until I get used to it. The new logo kind of grown on me. The half blue, half red. It's kind of cool. I kind of like that. But yeah. Also, the Young pickup. I was watching Plat chat, and they're like, "Where does he slot in at?" Because it looks like he's a smokes player from what I saw, and so I don't think he's gonna take Mako's spot. I'm pretty sure that's not gonna happen. So,
I always like to remind people that Mako used to be a duelist main. I always like to remind people. He used to be one of the Korean Jets. So
when we full week 1 and we see that Hyunmin and Mako double duelist, I will freak out. I will do some crazy. That would be absurd. Now I want to see it. You sold me. Someone call Termy right now. Tell him we need to get that cooking right now. And now, the most important question, the last one. Chobra, what is the best Nongshim flavor? Tried it for the first time. What is
Ooh.
the best kind?
Oh, the best kind? Listen, I'm gonna give you two answers. The always the safest answer, no matter what, is actually literally the original Shin Ramyun, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just what the brand was built on. It's got, the right amount of spice. It's got the flavor, etc. But uh, personally, I've actually been now leaning more towards. I used to like chapaghetti, which is the kind of like the black bean sauce, kind of savory, sweet and savory
Mm-hmm.
noodle that doesn't have any soup. But these days, I've been leaning towards the Shin Gold, which I've realized that apparently that's been out globally for quite some time now. But they released it in Korea for the first time as anniversary event.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first time we've had it in Korea. But the Shin Gold has it's got a little bit of a curry scent to it, like a curry spice, like the
Mm-hmm.
spiciness of it, the kick that it has. As someone who really likes curry and everything related to curry, I'm a big fan of that. So I actually just had a bowl yesterday. So I'm gonna go with Shin Gold as the recommendation for people to try. I think this one is gonna be much more like you like it or hate it though. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the original Shin Black, Chapaghetti, these are ones that I think everyone can at least enjoy moderately. But
Mm-hmm.
Shin Gold, like it or hate it, but worth a shot. Worth a shot.
So I saw somebody ask that to Downbeat during Santiago. I was like, I have to ask now. I have to know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let me say, great marketing. I tried it for the first time before the grand finals. They got me. They got me.
There you go.
It worked perfectly. So, Chobra, do you have any socials you want to plug? Again, second time.
Hmm. Yeah, sure. Obviously, you can find me on most platforms just at Will Chobra, whether it's Twitter or X, Instagram, things like that. I stream almost daily on Twitch and YouTube as well. Everything just at Will Chobra. And then from there on, you'll find other offshoot channels that you can find through those links. So come find me there. Even if I'm, playing variety games, we're always talking about Valorant. So if you want to talk about what's happening in the Valorant scene, drop on in and we can all have a good time.
And I'm in there every day. So you always find me. You tell me how terrible my videos are. No. So thank you for your time again, Chobra. I'm happy to be able to talk to you again. Maybe we'll do it again later in the season. We'll just keep doing it. You never get away from me. But
Sounds good.
thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.